Hello and welcome to Some Dude's Shed. We have disposed of the wasp, and we are back with you.
Now, you've said we disposed of the wasp. That sounds very ominous. Now, animal rights campaigners are going to get very upset with us.
I'm sure. I mean, but if there's anything that like Peter stands up for, it's wasps.
It flew away
Are wasps protected?
into the afterlife.
No.
No. Bees are protected there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, wasps don't do shit. They're not useless, but
Well,
they're not useful either. So
anyway, on with the more important stories that we have found. So, Mr. Red, what's your news story?
My news story comes from Interesting Engineering. A pensioner accidentally ejected himself from a fighter jet mid-flight.
There are so many questions. Why was he in a fighter jet?
A 64-year-old French pensioner was recently peer-pressured into flying into a fighter jet to celebrate his retirement. The man was so nervous he reached out during the flight and accidentally ejected himself mid-flight.
Just something to hold on to. He pulled the wrong lever, I guess.
Yeah, well, thankfully there was a parachute attached to his ejector seat. So why he would have? Well, I was about to say why would he have a working ejector seat on a recreational jet? I suppose if the jet went to crash, you would need that. Yes.
sorry. So he was a passenger.
Yeah, he was the passenger.
Wow.
So he wasn't even that old, really, because he's not like it was like a war hero thing. You've seen things like the old Spitfire pilots get taken up in the planes.
Yeah,
But
well, apparently he was celebrating his retirement, 64, and this was what they call an adrenaline ride.
I got what he paid for.
His peers pressured him in to take it.
Aye, sure.
The pensioner had a speed of roughly about 1,400 kilometers per hour.
wow,
I heard that ejector seats can break your spine.
they are really powerful. They're rocket powered. I think I heard someone that they dislocated their arms when they got.
Yeah, they are rocket
ejected.
powered. It's to throw you completely clear from the jet.
Yeah.
So, say the jet was on fire, or it was about to explode, or it was about to get hit by a missile that you couldn't avoid, you need to be thrown clear away from it. And then, just in case there's any debris coming off the jet as well, so you don't get injured. But yeah,
Wow.
so he just got excited and pulled the cord for the ejector seat.
So he got excited or he got scared. Like
I'm guessing
Well,
probably
just-
scared.
He got scared and pulled the ejector seat cord.
so I get my money's worth. Whoosh.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
mad.
So what else has happened?
Yeah, sorry, and it was actually 2,500 feet up in the air. So it wasn't that high.
Well, it was in France, so it was probably more like 900 meters.
The pilot sustained some facial injuries apparently during the event. I don't know how. Maybe things sitting in the cockpit or something got whooshed out.
What happens to the canopy whenever you use the ejector seat?
Well,
Does
the
it
canopy
come off or does it shatter?
it comes off. There's blowaway bolts. As far as I'm aware, there's blowaway bolts in the sections of the canopy. So whenever you pull the wire, the whole system goes off once. So they'll be blown off, and then wind will just pull the canopy away. And then you just blown out with a rocket booster. I don't know if the whole canopy came off in one go, or the canopy was in two different segments, one for the co-pilot and one for the pilot.
Oh my god, I'm just thinking, I wonder if there's ever been a time where the canopy didn't blow away. It's not funny.
When the rocket booster goes off,
They just slam into the canopy.
Yeah, like just crashes through the canopy, the part of the seat.
I don't know.
That would suck. It's
I
probably
think
like,
I would just break your neck.
pretty strong, those canopies.
yeah.
Well, it's a fighter craft, so yeah, it would be pretty strong.
And what if the plane was like corkscrewing? Like, say the wing gets shot off or something, and the plane was corkscrewing, and you hit the ejector seat. Would that be enough power to get you away in time before it?
Well, I think that would be part of the idea. Is the rocket booster would boost you far away from the plane. Didn't really matter what direction, as long as you're up in the air. Wouldn't matter what direction you got blasted away out of the plane, because you'll eventually the seat will be the heaviest part. So eventually the seat will turn and it'll be facing towards the ground, and then the chute will go.
And it all happens at once. Then, like the canopy goes and the seat goes, or does the canopy go and then there's like a split second before the seat goes?
I would imagine there'd be a split second before the seat goes.
Yeah, like a delay, because
I imagine the rocket booster seat managed to catch up on the canopy pretty quickly.
Wow.
So, Mr. Black, what's your little news story for today?
Well, my story features Tony Stark. Sorry, Elon Musk. It says here, Elon Musk is building Starbase, a city with a spaceport to the moon, Mars, and beyond. So I think he just offhand mentioned that he wants to build like a spaceport city kind of thing,
That's pretty cool. So he's going to make
like something in Star Trek.
He
He's
still
good.
has to get to Mars yet.
he's going to make Musk Isley.
Musk Isley. Ooh.
Oh, sorry. I'm very sorry. Sorry, everybody. I'm sure that just made our listener turn off. So
We have a listener.
It says here, SpaceX announced its intention to build a launch facility at Boca Chica Village on the U.S. Gulf Coast.
Gulf Coast is pretty big, so Texas, I guess.
Well, actually, I don't think that is happening. No, this is something they planned on doing, and then they were like, nah.
Well, that's
Hold
another one.
on.
Mr. Amazon. He's going to build a space station.
Well, it says here, I think it just sounds like a space station to me, but it sounds like somewhere where like astronauts, like there'll be living quarters and stuff. I don't know if it'd be like a duty free. Perhaps there will down the line whenever
Duty free.
space flight gets more.
Well, I suppose at the moment nobody's taxed the moon.
No, it's not. Nobody's taxed on the moon yet.
Yeah.
Yet.
Don't worry. Whenever people arrive and do all the hard work, politicians will show up and charge you.
But he's talking about things like a dedicated launch pad, and this launch pad will it'll be like a state of the art, next gen launch pad. So he's talking about whenever a rocket comes in, rather than hitting the ground and landing itself, these like robotic arms will come up. It'll hover in the air, the rocket will, but these arms will grab onto the rocket, and then the engines will cut off on the rocket, and then it just gets carried down on these like forklift arms.
So instead of a runway, he wants a big mechanical arm to catch the rocket.
Essentially, yeah. So it comes down, it hovers, and then it catches. Because, like, I think a lot of the times when those booster rockets and they came back down,
Yeah.
the landing ones, a lot of them blew up because they just didn't land straight, and they just cupped over and just blew up. So he's talking about that, and he's talking about like a tank farm. So it's basically just like a field just filled with fuel, like just fuel tanks and everything.
Eco warrior, Mr. Bezos. Or Mr. Musk, sorry.
Huh?
Mr. Musk being a nice eco warrior, is he?
Yeah, well, it could be, biofuel. I don't know. Regardless of whether Musk plans to incorporate a city close to the launch site or given the go-ahead, Starbase is undoubtedly set to become one of the most important launch sites on Earth. This is because it is from here that spacecraft will return astronauts to the moon, will launch. So I think he's talking about, this being Earth's spaceport, like the official spaceport. But which is mental. I mean, not saying it wouldn't happen. Like it'll have to happen because space flight will come. There was a time when not normal people couldn't afford a plane ticket.
Yeah, but that situation pretty much solved itself within 20 years.
Yeah. But then space flight's a whole new ball game. We're probably talking maybe about 100 years before
Yeah.
that kind of thing happens, like trips to Mars and everything. Like when they colonize Mars, naturally people are going to want to take trips.
That's a long way off yet. We still haven't colonized the whole planet yet.
Some would argue.
So some would say that Earth is getting full, but I think there's a big icy bit on the bottom which hasn't been colonized yet.
There's a big icy bit to the right of Moscow that hasn't been fully colonized yet.
That's right. Yeah, it's really empty.
So they're talking about like colonizing the oceans now. Like I know they're international waters and stuff. There's issues with that, but like there's more and more talk of these underwater cities.
Underwater cities.
Yeah, underwater cities. So no, like BioShock, except hopefully with less crazy people running around. But I mean, it's been on the cards for a while. And they're talking about like they could use turbine energy. Have these turbines that are constantly churning with the current. They're generating electricity for the batteries.
That makes
in the
sense.
city. So I don't know. It's just interesting that the fact that I don't know. Like what's going to do next? Elon Musk.
So let's final news story of today. Brothel offers 30-minute experience with prostitute in exchange for COVID jab. Any questions?
So you jab, so she jabs you and then you jab her, kind of thing.
I think so. Basically, that seems to be the main thing. This is in Austria, where they say that they've got apparently quite a low percentage of people who are double vaccinated. So basically, they're saying that they'll give a free 30-minute experience with a lady of their choice if they can prove that they've been double jabbed.
What about booster? Do they get another visit every time?
Well, it only says 2 at the moment.
Oh.
Apparently, the brothels in Austria were only allowed to reopen like a month ago.
Right. So the
So-
government's trying to come up with a scheme to support them, though.
Oh no, this isn't government. This is just a brothel. This is a brothel that has come up with the scheme.
Right. So how does giving away free
Free experiences.
experiences?
Well, I suppose the idea is it's like a taster, isn't it? You know, you get to you try the little bit of steak on a cocktail stick in Tesco, and then
Oh, whenever she turns around and says your 30 minutes is up,
Yeah.
I was like, I want to finish though.
I'm sorry, your 30 minutes is up. There's a big,
how much?
like guillotine comes down between the two of them. And
Well, I suppose it's like, a phone booth. You just give her a few extra quid to keep going.
I don't know. To be honest, financially, it doesn't make sense to me. But
No. But that's not like, I mean, there's other incentives have been pushed. Like, was it not in New York? Somebody was like, I think they were trying to do this drive where they were offering you, or I don't know if it was New York or if it was London or something like that. I don't know, but it was city somewhere. They were offering you a free trip to get your jab in an Uber, a free trip there, and also like a free slice of pizza with like, as long as you have proof of vaccination.
I'd get a jab for a slice of pizza.
And like I'm pretty sure it was New York. They were like, "Oh, you get a free burger and fries if you go and get your vaccine."
Recently, I've seen on the news a couple of days ago actually. In Australia, there was a jab lottery, and a woman won $1 million Australian dollars
Jab lottery.
just
So
for getting a jab.
So everybody who gets a jab gets a number. I guess that's how that works.
Well, I think the lottery's over now, but yeah, I think that's basically how it worked.
Genius.
brilliant.
She's a millionaire.
I'm afraid we're not allowed to express any further opinions on this, other than
Congratulations on your million, whatever it is, in Australia.
so concludes the news.
Okay.
So our main feature of today, well, Mr. Black, why don't you tell us what the main feature of today is?
Well, I came up with this idea of show and tell, and to be honest, not even I'm sure what it's meant to be. It's basically just bring something, and you go, "Oh, look what I found! This is cool," and then you try to impress other people with what you find. Could be anything, be anything at all. Like, "Oh, look at this! I'm going to show you this." Show and tell. Like, everyone knows what show and tell is.
Well, Mr. Black, do you want to honour us with the first ever show and tell on Some Dude's Shed podcast?
Oh, I don't want to. That's rubbish. All right, fine.
I think all of ours are rubbish. So
Oh,
fine.
well, people don't listen to us for quality. So
yeah, I don't know why you listen to us, to be honest.
actually, I have no idea.
Tell you what, why don't you two join me on this show and tell? So go to
How?
Google.
Right. You can do this at home, everybody.
Yes, or well, let me read out this disclaimer before we go any further. Disclaimer: this site is not for those with a weak disposition to being offended or disgusted. All right, so
Okay.
Google Rotten Library.
All right. What am I getting myself in here for, Mr. Black?
It's kind of like it's a dodgy Wikipedia almost.
Is it .com or
Just Google it. Just type in Rotten Library, and it's like the first one.
Rotten Library.
It'll come up Wikipedia probably, will it?
no? It came up with GWERN.net.
Yeah, that's the one.
Gwern. Okay, so what is Gwern?
And it looks like this.
That's the one. It looks pretty
Right.
pretty high tech.
Yeah. Well.
Web design from 1995.
Yeah, it's got a very early internet aesthetic to it. But basically, what I would describe it is, it's a very minimal, basic site. It's kind of hobbled together, pretty much like it's like an online encyclopedia, similar to Wikipedia. It's like a similar idea. It features a collection of articles that highlight the grotesque, the macabre, and the ugliest facets of humanity, along with interesting timelines, rabbit holes, and mysteries.
If you just look at the bottom, some of their friend sites.
Aye, well, there you go. Like, I found this on BuzzFeed, okay? BuzzFeed were like Rotten Library, and I was like, ooh, let's check out Rotten Library. And I was like, this is awesome. So,
I think
Alright,
your
well,
main
what are-
problem there was
Well, what are the
BuzzFeed.
fun things you found on it?
well, we'll just start with the main page here. Well, on the main page, you're kind of welcomed with this little intro. Welcome, friends, to the Rotten Library, an unforgettable collection of all that mankind swore to forget, but which we have trapped in agonizing clarity to remember always. Step carefully and remember the location of the eyewash stations as we present to you the lowest that we have travelled and the worst of what we have become. Enjoy and remember the words. Remember the words of our head librarian. We are all in this together, but we all die alone. And then before you are, is like a grid of different files, different categories. And it's things like, well, each category is, you have like a what's new section, which is kind of like a sort of like a best of
All
the
right.
website. Culture, art, medicine, crime, travel, the occult, sideshow, language, cryptozoology, sex, imagery, conspiracy, religion, death, hoaxes, history, and biographies. For example, if you go into the conspiracy section, if you click onto it, you pretty much get a massive list of I don't really know how this website's put together. I don't know if it's one guy or a bunch of guys, or like I don't know. It seems to me like it's one guy who's put it together. But for example, in the conspiracy section, you've got things like MK Ultra, NSA, alien autopsy, the FBI, New World Order,
Usual stuff.
American concentration camps. Yeah, just all the normal stuff. Roswell, like your your usual things. And you could literally spend hours on this website. And in each little article, I love the way it's laid. It's just
Basic.
It's very basic, but you've got it has like a lot of images and stuff.
I can appreciate any website that's not full of ads.
Oh, and that's the thing too. No ads, like no ads whatsoever,
Always nice.
except for historical adverts, which might have been racist at the time. there's like a racism article which sort of outlines the history of American concentration camps and sort of like racist propaganda during World War II. In the crime section, you got things like road rage, art theft, organized crime, blood diamonds. In the occult, you have lots of weird things. You have electronic voice phenomenon, Kabbalah, astral projection, exorcism, spells, and it actually sort of tells you how to do spells and stuff. Again, I wouldn't recommend it if just in case, just in case. But I just thought it was a really cool website. In your cryptozoology, like if you don't know what that is,
it's about Bigfoot and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's like monsters. So it's like zombies, mermaids, aliens, cyborgs, vampire. Cyborgs are robots, just technology. But yeah.
So what's your favorite article you found?
My favorite article. Well, as I said, there's a good sort of World War II propaganda. It was a good one. There's extensive timelines. There's the JFK. There's a JFK page, which is very good. It sort of outlines like a timeline of events and details of the investigation, things like that. It's got an article on, Kellogg's cornflakes, which is very interesting. I thought it was great, actually. It outlines how crazy, basically Kellogg's wasn't invented by W. Kellogg, or I can't remember the full name of the guy, but the guy that ended up making the company, Kellogg's. But the actual cereal was made by his brother, who was batshit crazy, nuts. So that's a very good article to read.
The kind of person that would think of eating dried wheat for breakfast.
Well, was it not originally he came up with it because he was a very religious man, and the idea was if you get people to eat a nice breakfast in the morning, that would keep them away from morning masturbation.
Yeah, pretty much. And he even went as far as to suggest about boys having their penises wired shut to prevent masturbations.
Interesting
Crazy
idea.
But you do end up going down a little bit of a rabbit hole whenever you go onto this website. Because again, there's links within the pages, similar to Wikipedia. You can end up just clicking and clicking and clicking for hours on end. So yeah, I just thought it was a cool website. But again, just don't go onto it if you're like, like that's offensive. Like I can't handle it. There you go.
I'm sure that won't be the first offensive website we cover. I'm sure we'll find more.
Sure. Such as somedudeshed.com.
Yes. It's, it will be a wretched hive of scum and villainy whenever it's finished. Or even started. So for show and tell, the brief was gigantic. Basically, something cool. So I did. So I thought, what's cool? Racing cars is pretty cool. What makes racing cars cooler? Racing on probably the most dangerous track ever. I basically read.
Is it the Nürburgring?
Oh no! This makes the Nürburgring look sensible.
Is it Spa?
No. This is
the wacky races track.
It's a lesser known track. This one's called Avus. Which is AVUS. It does stand for something. It stands for
death. Something
in German. So it stands for Automobile Werkes- and Übungsstrasse.
Sounds very dangerous.
Basically mean automobile traffic and training road, which sounds lovely. But it was a full on racetrack, and I will turn my computer around for my friends, so you can see that is the map of it.
Oh,
So basically, the track consisted of two massive straights.
Was that not in Forza too?
No. It hasn't made any official games. I don't
Was
think.
that not Top Gear's track at one point?
No.
Or sorry, Grand Tour, was that not their track at one point?
No.
I'm nearly sure they had something just like that.
Oh, this track shut down in the 90s. No one's raced on it since 95. But this track consists of two massive straights running parallel, like right next to one another, and joined at either end by hairpin turns.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I know. There was a Fantasy New York track in Forza 2 that has that layout.
oh
Yes,
I remember that.
Yes.
That wasn't nowhere near as ridiculous as this though. This one's literally a motorway, and that track, if I remember rightly, was like 2 or 3 miles long.
Something like that.
Yeah, this one's 20.
Oh.
So it's literally just a stretch of a motorway. It looped around at one end with a flat hairpin, and there was a flat hairpin at the other end. Then after a while, they changed it to a massive banked corner, which was insane. I'll see if I can find it. There we go. There's a picture of cars going around the banked corner.
It's like
It was a
watching
big-
NASCAR.
It was a big 43-degree corner, so it was
Whoa.
really steep. So if we go through a little bit of history of this, they started building this in 1913, as kind of to the southwest of Berlin. So they started building it in 1913. They got a bit distracted in 1914,
Wonder why.
and and they didn't finish building it until 1920. So we're going way back in the days of motorsport, back when men were men, and moustaches meant good things. So the original layout was 19 kilometers long, but over time it shortened because they were being sensible, and it went down to a nice normal 8.3 kilometers long. And it was the site for the first ever German Grand Prix. People think, what's a racetrack in Germany? The Nürburgring.
Mm.
If you're
Yeah.
interested in motorsport, you might think Hockenheim. They're the two big tracks, but Aarhus was the one that actually held the first ever Grand Prix, and it was won by Rudolf Caracciola, who was like Lewis Hamilton of his day. He was like the man. He was winning everything. He won it in his Mercedes. So, but of course, this place was a death trap, right?
Mhm.
People would, in pretty much every race meeting, somebody died. At least
Apart
one
from the
person.
two ends, it's hard to imagine that would be a death trap one.
It's one of the ends was a massive bank corner at 45 degrees with no guardrail at the top.
Oh.
So
So it's basically like a launch ramp.
yeah,
Well, sure, it was like in the early days of the Formula One motorsport, there was just no stands. People were right on the track, more or less.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, they just had straw bales.
What was it? The worst crash was in the 60s, where 80 odd people died. 85 people died.
No, this you're talking about Le Mans. That was a Le Mans crash.
No, not this racetrack, but that was the worst crash.
Yeah,
it
that
a
was
bit-
that was a tragedy. That one. Yeah, but this track, like people were dying all the time. And the first Grand Prix, there was there was a mechanic died in a pit stop accident, which arguably isn't related to the racetrack. But then in another crash, two of the marshals died in an accident.
And they didn't know who won then.
No, they didn't. But that was Rudolf Caracciola who won.
Did he have a red car?
It was Mercedes, so silver.
Oh.
So basically, they had a big race there pretty much every year or every other year until 1937. 1937 was the last big race that they held, but it wasn't held to normal regulations. So it was like a non-championship event, and because it wasn't held to regulations, and Germany was in a bit of a competitive phase in its history in the late 30s.
Took sports day a bit seriously.
Yeah, so the two big powerhouses at the time in motorsport were Mercedes-Benz and Auto Union. And they came up with some of the coolest looking cars because there were no rules on how they could design them, and because it's basically just two massive straights, you want as much top speed as possible. So they came up with these amazing looking like streamlined cars.
Oh, yes.
And like that one, you may have seen it before. That's the Auto Union.
Jesus.
So that's from 1937. And in that race, let's find the number here. In that particular race in 1937, the race was won by Hermann Lang. I think he was driving the Auto Union, and he did it at an average speed. And this is an average speed, so it includes pit stops and starts and stops and whatever else, at an average speed of 276 kilometers an hour for the whole race.
That's quick.
That's really fast. And to give you an idea of how fast that is, that average race speed wasn't beaten until 1986 in the Indy 500. So that speed of the fastest ever race was held by Herman Lang for like 50 years.
When was this track closed down?
Getting to that. So, because of its dangerous record and also the fact it's a motorway, when Germany was split in two, it was actually all right because crossing the border was a bit of a challenge, so not many people did it.
Yeah.
So they could keep on racing there for a while. They even had a Formula One race in '59.
Yeah.
Sadly, somebody died. But they kept on racing there until 1995, because by that point Germany was reunited, and people wanted to use the motorway for commuting. But they had one last race in 1995 for touring cars. By this point, it wasn't a big track with massive straights. It was they cut it down, they neutered it completely. The big bank corner was gone, so they drove around it instead. And instead of two massive straights, they put little chicanes in the way. So as you were going down the straight, you had to stop and do a little wig and go around the cones. And it was for touring cars. And sadly, a driver perished who got it wrong, ended up sideways on the track, and some guy basically drove full speed into his driver's door. So yeah, it is.
That'd be instant.
It is the craziest racetrack that has ever been created. Trust the Germans to make something like that.
I suppose the reason why. When did it close? Sorry.
Closed in the last race was 95.
But the record that how many 200 what kilometers?
200. The record for the fastest race?
Yeah.
I really need glasses, guys. Keep on losing all my numbers. 276 kilometers an hour in 1938. But right, the only other time that really professional racers raced there was in '59 when Formula One went to it.
Oh, okay.
At this point, Formula One was heavily regulated on that race, so they had much smaller engines. They weren't allowed all the sleek bodywork and everything, so it just wasn't as quick.
Yeah, because I was just wondering how come if it was beaten in the early 80s, why hadn't been beaten since? But yeah, I suppose because then the regulations and everything.
Yeah, basically.
That's mad.
So it's now part of the Bundesautobahn 115, and you can still see the grandstands and the banking from the road still there.
No, it's coming back to me now. I'm 99% sure they had something like that on the Grand Tour. It was basically like two long straights. Obviously, I don't think they were anywhere near as long as that. And it was sort of like hairpin turns, but it was kind of like not a slalom, but it was sort of like a meandering, and then it went around. And then again, it was a straight, and then there was like a big loop where you would drift around that loop and come back, and then it was like a very bendy hairpin kind of shape, but it was dead similar shape to the track you just showed us there, but
cool.
Obviously not as dangerous,
Yeah,
it couldn't be too hot for TV,
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's not, as far as I know, it's not in any game officially, but there are mods out there modders out there who've recreated the track, and I can tell you it's quite difficult because the approach speed that you have for that tiny hairpin, you're approaching it at like 300 miles an hour in a car from the 1930s, which weighs like 2 tons with teeny weeny tires. It's a challenge. Not to mention there's a little kink in the motorway as well. It's not entirely straight.
You soup up a Fiat 500, try and hit that corner, no problem.
Well, yeah, a modern car, no problem. But back then, when men were men and moustaches were bushy, then
sure, if it was in Forza, just turn on the brake line, you'd be fine. You'd brake halfway up the road.
Moving on then. I'll do mine.
So, Mr. Red, what have you found?
Well, Mr. Gray, I have found a ring that is also a gun.
One ring.
Gun ring.
A ring. It's a.
So if you want to take a wee look at that there.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
It is a ring that was made by a Frenchman, Casimir Lefebvre. I can't pronounce that. In 1828, in the 1800s, the first depiction of science fiction was written in 1818, which seemed to have sparked people's fascination with technology, and it stemmed into the firearms field, obviously.
Obviously.
So it could fire projectiles that were 2mm or 4mm.
They wouldn't kill much with it. If I kill a wasp with it, that's about it.
Well, 2 to 4mm, and if you made a fist and went to punch somebody in the head and
Right.
fired at the same time, I think you could probably kill them.
Maybe.
This was made because protection weapons were all the rage at the time, so you had your personal protection weapon. Even in Europe, I thought it was more of an American thing, but apparently it was a European thing too. And no, it wasn't a gift for the ladies. It was just a form of personal protection that you could keep on yourself. There was a smaller ring, though, made for women.
I'm trying to work out how big were the bullets then? Like, if you were to just do this.
It is called the Petite Protector.
Lovely. How manly.
I don't, for some reason, they spelled protector in English for some reason and kept Le Petite in French.
I don't know. Maybe the French word for protector isn't as
Manly.
manly.
Yeah, so basically, I worked the cylinder on the top of the. There will be a photo on the screen, obviously. The cylinder on the top of the gun rotated, basically like a revolver cylinder, and it was fired by a small lever on the side of the ring that you could pull with your other finger or thumb.
So you could shoot it with one hand.
You could shoot it with one hand.
So it was like a single action type thing?
No, you'd fire it, and then the cylinder would turn to the next round. There was a maximum of 6 rounds, less if it was one of the bigger caliber.
So you'd prefer that, or even just one round? Like one big round? You know what I mean? Because a bunch of small rounds aren't going to do much.
It is on your finger. Surely it would break your finger if it was too big.
Oh, that's a good point, actually, yeah.
Well, thinking about it, it's pretty be kind of hard to see, especially if you put a cover over the top of it. You wouldn't suspect that it was a gun.
A fake jewel on top, like a wee cap.
Even just like a solvent cover.
Yeah.
You just flip it off, and they wouldn't know you had the gun on you. And if you got into a fist fight that you wanted to end, you could do it pretty quickly.
You show them your ring and blow them away.
So have they said how lethal it is?
No, but there was very few made, and current auctions of them have went anywhere between $4,000 and $15,000.
Nice.
Anyone who knows more about guns, whatever a 2 or 4mm would do in damage wise, I think 22 is supposed to be a joke, and these are far smaller than 22.
Yeah.
But again, if you're in a fist fight with somebody and you just fire this off like right on them,
it would hurt a bit.
It would hurt a bit, yes.
Yeah, it'd probably be like stabbing them with a pencil or something, just to get them off you.
And these are actual cartridge rounds as well, so there's no risk of it being a ball and powder just falling out of the ring as you go to hit somebody.
So when was it, sir?
It was made in 1828.
1828.
Yes.
As far back as that.
Pretty cool.
That was pretty mad, yeah. Well, how big was the ring on the finger?
Well,
the ring, the ring itself was just average ring size. It was the cylinder on top would be the biggest giveaway. But again, if you were to crown it with a solvent or something, you could get away with it.
Yeah.
Because we know what it is. It's obvious that it's a gun, but no one's ever going to think that it's a gun.
No.
By looking at it. So,
yeah.
Quite impressive engineering for the day, considering the small moving components.
Yeah, that was really cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're probably going to get ammo for it these days, though, could you?
You need a specialist.
I think they're specially made bullets for the ring gun. There's a 2mm pin fired ball there, and there's one that's used. It has its own pin actually in the bottom of the cartridge.
Right.
To ignite it. So the hammer on the gun must just hit that pin and then it's spent. Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
there
we go. I guess that's
the end of the show and tell episode.
That's the end of show and tell. We don't have any bombshells to end on, do we?
Just gunshots.
Just gunshots. Well,
until next time.
Until next time.
Goodbye.
Have a nice day.